Hey, is the TV on over there? Okay. Awesome. Let me blow that up. Jim Collison, we are live from the Heartland Developers Conference 2017 here with Todd Britson. And Todd, welcome to the conference.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, good to have you. Let's get to know you a little bit. Tell me a little bit about who you are, where you're from, what you do, your company you work for, those kinds of things.
All right. Well, I'm Todd Britson. I work for Client Resources Incorporated. I'm the Director of Solutions Development. So the company split up really in 3 different groups, but the group I head up is called Solutions, and we develop custom web and mobile solutions. Been doing mobile for a very long time, and kind of from Nebraska, or at least went to high school here and college here, and then moved away and then came back. So
yeah, we're coming up on a decade of mobile app development. When we think about Android, you'd mentioned before you started in 08, and it's hard for me to believe that we've only been doing it since 08, right? When we think about it, what's changed the most for you as we think about developing apps, 8 or 9 years ago versus developing them today? What are the big changes that you've seen?
I would say at the beginning, it was more get an application out there and get some data out there, not really thinking about how is it being used, what are people doing with that application. As today, they're very much focused on user experience. So is the application the best for the users? Is the users liking it? Not just what do I want to show them, what do they want to see, and how do they want to interact with the app? So it's kind of a switch from over the top.
Maybe a maturity.
Probably maturity, yes.
if we put it that way, a focus on the consumer and how they're consuming it and what's the best user experience. And early on, everybody was just trying to get something to market, right? We didn't know what we were doing in those days, and so it's kind of matured. As you look ahead, what are you excited about in the future in the mobile space? Certainly 8 years ago, it was all PC, a little bit of mobile. Today, it's all mobile and a little bit of PC. What do you get excited about when you think about the future for mobile apps?
Well, like you said, it's growing, so I'm excited about that more and more people and companies are needing to embrace mobile. People, you want to use it. It's become the industry, what people want. So like we write banking software applications, and just this year, it became the leading tool to use to see your banking solution. So you no longer go to the website or to the teller, of course, probably not, but you go to your mobile phone now and all that. So I think that's awesome. I'd say up to this point and still being embraced and needs to be embraced more is the user experience, as far as making sure the content meets the user. But what's coming and what I really enjoy working with now is like animations and transitions and really making the app no sluggish latency, but yet still present some cool features.
Kind of elegant.
Yeah, elegant.
Right? Some elegant design to that. The banking apps have gotten really good. And today, I wouldn't even think I was in the banking industry for 13 years when telephone banking was a big deal, right? That was kind of the technology we had. And I think I'm finally, and maybe you'll agree or disagree, I think I'm finally ready to go 24/7 service for my bank on my app. I can't think of anything that I really need. I take a picture of the check. I can transfer funds. I can do everything. Are you finding as you guys do banking software, are you finding that to be fairly universal in the sense that more and more people are using the apps more and more and are visiting the branches less? Do you get any feel for that?
Yeah, definitely is happening. I actually can't list the companies' names that we work with because they get branded as the company. But
yes. Please don't.
Yeah, some of our companies, I would say they all embrace mobile, but some of them actually are thinking, okay, this is going to be the only interface with some of these users is this mobile app. They're going to be depositing their checks, checking their accounts, paying their bills, looking at their credit cards, opening new accounts within the app, all using this mobile bank app and going into the branches or going online or anything else. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, and we see some of that in third world countries where mobile is the really only way. And in microfinancing and some of those pieces, it really has gone completely to the phone. Mortgage, you think of Quicken, and they're doing these rocket mortgage loans right off your phone, which is kind of crazy. You're here because you're a session leader. Tell me a little bit about the session, and you had it already, I think. So tell me a little bit about the session that you gave.
Yeah, it's a good session. So it was on. It was called "Don't Get Painted into a Hybrid Corner." And so basically it's hybrid mobile applications versus native mobile applications. I explained a little bit of what that is. It's kind of the differences on an OS. You would develop for each OS, Apple, Android, and then a hybrid solution would be developed at once and deploy on multiple OS. Kind of a different experience. And when is the right time to go native and when is the right time to go hybrid, and what should you watch out for?
Yeah, and what are the tools when we think of hybrid? Well, who are the leaders in that space right now?
Xamarin is a very strong leader for .NET groups. Accelerator is great for Java. There's Iconic. There's a bunch of PhoneGap. There's a bunch of different leaders out there, and they're making some pretty good solutions. So it's not terrible. It's just different than native.
And then when we think about native, what are my options natively today?
So what we do we have done Windows, but we primarily do iOS, Apple, and Android. And on those solutions, on iOS, you're going to develop it in Swift, kind of the new coding language, or Objective-C. It's the only choices. If you're native, you're going to program in their language. And same with Android, which is Java. So those are the platforms.
Yeah, pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
They're making some changes. Any changes coming to Swift with iOS 11?
Oh, iOS, I'd say both of them are making some changes. Really, accessibility has been a big thing that they're trying to make it bigger and better for people with disabilities to use. So I like that. I like the idea of kind of making sure our apps are designed better for everyone. But they doing, for as far as back to banking, but we don't just do banking applications. I don't want to make it sound like that, but they're doing some neat things with payments. As far as now you can see you can pay people through your messages. So I can message you and send you $20, or better yet, you can message me and give me $100. So,
yeah, and it's interesting. Again, more of that maturity in the product is that we then the next step is start thinking about accessibility, right? That becomes really important. I interviewed Courtney earlier, and she talks about it from a web perspective, but certainly on the mobile side, very important that those people get accounted for. What are some things when we think about accessibility in web apps? What are some things you have to think about? I'm assuming they're the standard. I can't see, I can't hear. But how do you have to account for that?
Well, you have to design your app so that the font can change. So it can be large, very large print, and be able to still give the person the content they want. You have to label, so there's like buttons and menus behind the scenes, so you may not see it on the screen, but you have to label them a certain way so that when somebody that can't see the phone with disabilities, they push on it, it reads to them what it is instead of say button 1, and you're like, oh, that's not really useful. I don't know what button 1 does. So things you have to look at. Color, there's a lot of people color blindness out there, so you have to make sure the colors match up. So it might look very different to someone that can see color, but someone that can't see color, they can't see the transitions between the different buttons or menus items and stuff as well.
A lot of companies have spent a lot of money branding, and in those brand analysis, they're not always thinking about that. And that's probably an area we need to think more about in the marketing branding exercises we go through, because that makes it easier for you guys if the contrasts are there, or those, because of color blindness. That's probably way more common, don't you think, than some of the other issues that are out there?
Yeah, I say like 10% of the males are colorblind, so it's going to affect a lot of people when they are similar to one another. Other things that we got into, I thought about this earlier when you asked what we're going into, we're actually stepping outside of the mobile apps as well by doing voice integrations things. So now you have Siri, and you want to pay a bill, you can just ask Siri to pay a bill, or you can ask Google Assistant to what's your checking account balance. I keep jumping back to the bank because we used that earlier. It's just an example of what you could be doing.
It's a great example, by the way. I think in the most functional example, a lot of the stuff we do in apps, with maybe the exception of Uber or hotels, they're kind of fun, they're gimmicky, they're play, but banking is real life stuff, right?
Yeah.
So those are great examples. So don't shy away from the. I was late actually to the banking app game. I was a web guy first and did a lot of my stuff on the web. I bank at Chase and Bank of the West here, a big bank here in the Midwest. Both of them have come out with dynamite web apps or mobile apps that have changed the way I bank. So I think it's a pretty serious thing. I mean, you guys got to be seeing some pretty high adoption rates in those areas.
We are. The Millennial groups, that's that we see most of the users are on, but I would tell you that we look at statistics for all the different age groups, and every age group is growing. So it does, even the baby boomers, more and more people are using it every year. So they're coming to us. So all the different age groups grow with mobile apps.
As a developer, and I've got these options, this hybrid or this native, are there some general rules of thumb that we say, typically this kind of, if we're doing this, we're going to go hybrid. If we're going to do this, we're going to go native? Or how do you make those decisions? Or is it even a decision you have to make?
Well, it's a decision that you should definitely consider when creating a mobile application. The very best application you can write will be native. So if you want the very best application or the most cutting edge application, native is going to get you there. You don't have to worry about obstacles in the way that you can't do something, because the hybrid tool is limiting you. So you can do anything in native, and it's going to be the best user experience you can create. That makes it sound like you should only go native. But really, there's good points of why you want to use a hybrid solution as well. And the hybrid solutions, they will, you might have a market, or your office may be a Microsoft shop. So you have a bunch of .NET developers. Well, the .NET developers will have to learn a new language in a new environment, and they'll have to learn 2 different new languages. They'll have to develop on Swift for iOS and then also Java for Android. Well, if they're already .NET developers, maybe they're going to do it in Xamarin, a hybrid tool that uses .NET. They can create the application. A lot of times hybrid solutions, though, you create the application once, you deploy to multiple places, and it looks the same and feel on different solutions, and that also causes problems. You kind of want it to look like an iOS app, feel like an Android app. If you do that, these tools can allow that, but you're no longer doing the code once, deploying on multiple. You're coding it for each system. You're just doing it in like a .NET language or whatever language you're comfortable with. So there's pros and cons for each. There's other ones I could go into, examples where hybrids better maybe met. And
when is a situation when hybrid's appropriate?
Well, a lot of times small dev shops are trying to get something out there. They can do it in a hybrid solution, get out to the stores faster. They also, maybe they only have 3 developers or 2 developers or even have 1 developer. And that developer, instead of having to learn how to develop it in Swift and learn how to develop it in Java, they can learn in whatever language he or she already knows, the developer wants, and deploy it to both cases. So it's just works well in very small organizations or very one-sided organizations as far as the software stack goes.
And can I, if I begin hybrid and I write an Android app, then I need to come back a year later and rewrite that or update it. Can I switch it to native?
You have to rewrite it. So that's actually, and one of the things I talked about in my session was a application I worked on that was originally written in a hybrid tool, PhoneGap, and it wasn't successful. It wasn't what the company wanted as far as their app and ability. And so I was part of the transition that they brought me in to decide what we should be doing next, and I suggested native, and we rewrote the application completely in native, and actually that app went on to become a Apple Developer Partner app. So it was a very good success story. As I said in the session, though, it wasn't just because we went native. We also changed the design and stuff. So there was other benefits that could have been done and improved on a hybrid solution as well.
Was the old code, say that 5 times fast, was that helpful to look back on and see what had been done before, or did you just kind of scrap it and start over?
We scrapped it and started over, but what was really useful is we did look at analytics, so in user reviews. So there was something out there that customers were using, and this was a large-scale app, so millions of customers are using it. And with that, we could see what they're complaining about or what they're finding confusing. So when we developed the new native app, we could solve some of those problems.
Did you create some new problems, though, in the new design? Does that happen, too?
We did, but we went from the app before it was a average of a 1.5 star reviews, and we went to a 4.5 star reviews. So we still had some problems. It wasn't perfect, but it was a lot better.
Did when you cut over the app, you make those available, they update for people. There's that in between, and you probably know this. I've always just kind of wondered, how painful is the in between when you have an old app, have some services, you're going to create a new one that may be sharing services or using something similar or maybe completely different. Is that cut over that time it takes users to actually update it on their phone? Is it difficult to get during that time?
The difficult part, to the user, they just switch over and they're on the new one.
Right.
The difficult part is the server side, is you have to support the old version as well as the new version. So the server APIs have to be written in a way that they can grow for the different solutions, or you can know when you're able to shut off the old version compared to the new version and all that. So it's really difficult for us to help manage it, but to the end user, they don't see that problem. Well, if you're right, they don't see those problems.
Yeah. I just I have a podcasting Android app that I didn't write, but I'm using a service for. And Google made some changes, so I had to resubmit that, do some things, and resubmit it, and then it immediately got kicked out of the process for some graphics I had in there. It's an automated process, right? There's those challenges as well, right? I mean, just because you write the app, submit that to either one of the stores, what are the challenges that you guys face in just the submission process?
Yeah, there's challenges, and I would say Google's a little bit easier than Apple.
No, they weren't easy on me.
On the stores, but
I had a vendor graphic that I was using that I had permission to use, but their automated system picked it up and said, "Hey, you have a logo that's copyrighted," and so amazing that their automated systems can find that.
I have experience with that exact problem before. So yeah, you kind of have to when you're submitting a new app, when you have new logos or branded applications, you kind of have to submit the paperwork with it that says, "Hey, look, I do have the rights to use this, so please don't reject me."
Yes.
And things with it. If you follow their guidelines, both Android, Google's and Apple's guidelines, usually you can have pretty good success of doing it the first time. You just have to learn what to make that you have control of or not. There was a time I remember I created an Apple app that was used for marathon racing and tracked people running, and both stores that said, "Hey, just want you to know that you can track an Android user or you can track an iOS user. It doesn't matter. It's all independent. So download the app, track your friend. It doesn't matter what phone they're using and things." And I got in trouble on that one by Apple saying you can't mention the word Android in any of your write-ups. So I had to correct that by saying it works with other phone providers as well, and they accepted that. So
isn't that great?
Yeah,
isn't that great? You can't say Android. The dreaded A word, right? When you think about development today and someone new, college student, someone trying to switch careers, what kind of advice would you give to them as far as how to get started? What kind of things could they be doing? Sometimes, they're not teaching the fundamentals of app development in college. You just don't come out with that. So how do people get into this industry now, and what's the right way? What kind of things should they be doing or could they be doing?
Well, I mentioned, so CRI hosts a couple mobile meetup groups. So I say that's a good place to go to, because there you can be with experienced mobile people or people starting off, other people are starting off, and you can share ideas, collaborate, and try to figure out what to do. That would better serve you. But what I like to do is basically tell people, if you want to get into mobile, what are you passionate about? And why don't you make an app that lines up with that passion? You don't have to put it out in the stores. It could be only your app, but you're going to feel a little bit more passionate about it and want to solve problems to make it work. And then you're going to get familiar with the mobile architecture. So
we recommend for our high school interns and our college interns, I always recommend they have their own pet project. Just like you said, something they really care about that they'd be interested in developing it for, and just work on it over time. Get it to certainly for me, I had someone else build my Android app for me, and then Google changed the rules and said that they can't do it. I need to submit that under my account. So I had to set up my own Google developers account to get that done. That's not terribly expensive, $25, I think, gets you in there. Yeah, $25 lifetime. It's great. It's not a money grab. I think it's more of a setup kind of thing. But again, now I'm kind of learning, this is what you guys go through, when you have to submit an app. So you kind of learn when you get that done that way.
Yeah, submitting an app is also sometimes a challenge. They both Google and Apple has a bit of a challenge with the whole review process, how things work. And so I would say that's a great place to kind of reach out to someone that either a mobile meetup or something that you found that knows mobile.
Yeah.
Just kind of help be with you or walk you through that process, so you can be a little bit calmer, not so stressed out about it all.
Yeah.
So
and when you add data components into it, it gets even more dicey of being able to connect to your data connections and make all those pieces work and making sure they're secure and those APIs stay up and running. So it's a big challenge. There's a lot going out there. Todd, thanks for taking a few minutes to interview with us today. Congratulations on your session. Appreciate you you coming out and being part of it.
Thank you,
If you're watching live, and a few of you are, hang tight. We're going to do another interview here at 1:30. The video will be available right below here, right down. If you just look down there, next video is there. We'll see you back here shortly. Thanks. Hang tight, Todd.